Okay, our next question comes from Melissa, who asks, how was it for you when you first started your business, and what was the best advice that you had received? When I first started my business, I was so determined and so excited. I really had found my passion in life, and I think I exuded it everywhere I went. Um, it was challenging at first because I needed to find clients, but I was patient, and I had developed a business plan, and I was sticking along with it, and I knew that eventually I would see results. I just had to be patient for people to take notice, and eventually they did, and now I'm here. An aha moment that I had when developing my business was actually from my financial advisor, who asked me what I was going to charge for my services. And I said, well, I think I'm going to be inexpensive so that I can get jobs and develop a portfolio, and then I'll raise my price. And he told me, he said, Candice, I don't pretend to know the first thing about being a wedding planner, but I do know a little bit something about business. And he used an analogy of a contractor. He said that he was, a financial advisor to a lot of people who opened up their own contracting businesses. And they dreamed of doing, $1 million restorations and, $1 million additions on beautiful homes. But they started their business and they just wanted to start working. So they did small jobs, little bathroom restorations, maybe they built a patio outside of someone's house, small things in areas that weren't necessarily affluent, who could afford to do a $1 million restoration on their house. And what they ended up doing was setting the tone for their work. And they were never able to climb up from doing the smaller jobs into doing what they had dreamed of, which were those big $1 million gorgeous restorations. And they couldn't understand why. And he told me, you have to start where you want to be. You might start in terms of price on the lower end of where you want to be, but you don't want to do, if your dream is to do, $250,000 weddings, you don't want to start with, a $10,000 wedding. It's not going to yield you the kind of business in the future that you're looking for. So that was my aha moment. That was the best advice I ever received, because it shifted my perspective on my business, and it made me sit down and think, okay, who is my target market? Who is the bride or the groom that I want to target? And once I established that, I realized that I had to target that person from the immediate start of my business. Otherwise, I might not ever have the opportunity to work with that target. And so that's what I did. So hopefully my aha moment will help to give you an aha moment. And that was really a great question. And I always tell that story to people because it makes so much sense when you put it in that kind of analogy, and it has obviously really tremendously helped my business. And without that advice, I can't say that I would be sitting here giving you all any advice on business. So Emily has a great question. It's a personal question about me. She asks, how did you become who you are today? What is your employment and education history? Well, I was in college for art history. I studied all the greats in art, and I really had a passion for art. I love art. I am by no means a classic artist myself. I don't paint, I don't draw, I don't sculpt. I have a good eye for photography, but technically I wouldn't put myself in any kind of category beyond novice. But I definitely do have an eye for things. When I was young, I used to wait for my mom's Spiegel catalog to come in, and I used to go through all the pages and admire the designs of each room, and then talk about out loud, this is so embarrassing, but talk about how I styled this room in this picture or whatever. My mom would come home from work and watch me, or find me watching HGTV. Like I just loved interior design. Unfortunately, in high school, I wasn't the brightest student, or at least I should say I wasn't the most dedicated student. I certainly was not bright. I was very bright. I just didn't apply myself. So my grades were really not that great. And applying for college was a bit of a challenge for me because, you know, I didn't put the attention in high school where it needed to be. So I started off at a community college and had a really fantastic art history professor who really got me inspired by art. And not being able to go to interior design school at the time, I put my focus in that and shifted my focus into art history, and then I continued on to Central and Southern Connecticut State Universities. But I opened my business a few years after I graduated college, immediately after I started working for a business and gained a lot of business experience. The industry wasn't for me. It was in the medical field, and it definitely wasn't my calling. But I have found my calling, which is to design interiors that are very fleeting. So I get the opportunity to design amazing celebrations, life celebrations, beautiful interiors that are really only to be enjoyed for one day, and then they're dismantled and taken away until the next party, which is, you know, very interesting to me. It's definitely not lost on me that that's what I do. Prior to going to college, you know, I had every, you know, odd job you can think of. I was a dishwasher at a restaurant and a hostess. I was a maid. My first job was the ticket girl at Quasi Amusement Park in Middletown, Connecticut. You know, I've done, you know, lots of odd jobs in my day. And I'm so thrilled that I get to wake up every day now and do something that I really love. So that's a little bit of my background.